Winter workouts in full effect. New kids on the block, they're in town.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, pick your platform, download this podcast. It's always going to be free, and I always appreciate your support. So, no, I'm not talking about the boy band. I'm talking about all the new kids, all the new freshmen, the early enrollees. Winter workouts are going. Benny Wiley's in charge right now. Yeah, the madman. He's going to get these guys in shape for spring camp. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. Who are you going to be focused on in the spring game, Trojan fans? It's going to be the first time you get to see these guys up close in person, unless Coach Riley changes his mind and decides to open up practice to everybody during spring. Don't see that happening, but if it does, hey, let's hope. We can always hope, right? Anyways, when you show up to the Trojan Huddle, the spring game, whenever that's going to be, sometime in April, I assume, who are you going to be focused on? I mean, the easy answer is, of course, all of them, and I agree, but I don't have enough time in this show to talk about all of them. Got to get a little bit more specific, narrow it down. So let me put it to you this way. If you had to pick three guys on defense, not named Thanos, I'll make it easy. Pick two guys on defense, not named Jakeem Stewart. Who are you going to be focused on? We talked about it on the next episode of Inside the Trojan Huddle. It's a panel show I do over there on wearesc.com. This was a topic that came up. Chris Arledge made this one of the conversation pieces. And the first person that immediately popped into my head was defensive lineman, Floyd Boucard. Back in October, when he committed to USC after he decommitted from Oklahoma, Floyd had this to say: I see a great opportunity at USC. I was locked in with Oklahoma, but watching USC this season is really what changed my mind. Seeing how they rotate defensive linemen, how they play underclassmen, seeing an opportunity to play early is what caught my attention. What Coach Riley and Coach Henney had told me they were doing, and I really want to play early, so I just saw a great opportunity. I remember standing next to Floyd on the field after that game in October. He was chopping it up with Sam Green. And if you're an everyday viewer or listener to the show, you've heard me tell this story before, but I thought Sam was talking to an older brother or an uncle. I mean, all I saw was 6'3", 315 pounds of man-child. I was like, whoa, this dude's bigger than Sam Green. Someone who's been in USC's program for 2 years. And it's not just his size that kind of gets me excited thinking about the future. It's his athleticism. Guys with that type of size that move that well, they're a pain in the arse to deal with. It'd be somebody else's problem to deal with, but that's what has me a little bit excited. You know what? USC's they're recruiting, they're bringing them in. You hear the players talk about wanting to be developed by Coach Henderson. So you have that part of it. Plus, he's also eager. He wants to be a Trojan. He wants to be developed by Coach Henney. I just mentioned that. It's his desire to be a part of USC's history, the tradition. He also said this back in October. This is what he told On3. Quote, I didn't know a lot about USC when I first started getting recruited. I'm from Canada, so I didn't know a lot about their history, traditions, things like that. Getting on campus, I learned a lot more, and I'm going to a great school to get an Ivy League-like education and play for a historic program. Coach Henney and I have a great relationship. We are really close, and he coached Aaron Donald, a player I grew up watching. I can't wait to play for him. Then Coach Riley, he made me feel like family. I met his family. He will talk to me anytime, and he's like my best friend. Coach Riley was the biggest part of my commitment. He's someone I can learn a lot from and look up to. He will be a great mentor for me, close quote. So when you combine what his potential on the field with that athleticism and that desire to be coached up, to be a part of the USC legacy, those are all the traits I'm looking for with players who come to USC. I'm going to be focused on him. Now, I'm also excited to see, the two transfers, Jaw Jarrett, Keyshawn Silver, of course, Jakeem Stewart, who are also, he's a new interior guy. I think he eventually ends up playing the 3 technique. He's versatile enough, though, that you can line him up strong side defensive end. I think eventually with his size, his frame, he slides inside. But Boucard, for me, he's a wild card playing this fall. Someone else I want to see, because he had a red shirt last year, and it had nothing to do with his health, but Elijah Newby, linebacker, didn't play. Saw a little bit of action on special teams, but they pretty much just kind of shut him down. He wasn't going to play linebacker last year. You had Mason Cobb, you had Easton Mascarenas Arnold, Eric Gentry before he went down for the season. There just wasn't a lot of playing time available for the younger guys. Desmond Stevens, he saw some action, but not enough. Jaden Walker, he was hurt, so they used the red shirt with him. He's another guy who I'm going to be focused on this spring. Both of those guys, but Jaden Walker, I've seen what Jaden Stevens is capable of. What Desmond Stevens is capable of. I want to see what Jaden Walker can do. But that linebacker position, it needs to build some depth. That's why I'm so focused on Newby. I've read all of all the bio and what he's capable of doing, and all of his high school accolades. Now I want to see it on the field. And second year in the program this spring, I'm going to assume he's going to be one of the featured guys. And now that USC has Rob Ryan coaching the linebackers, I want to see if he's going to be ready to play in 2025. That linebacker room has to get figured out, because the guys up front, they're going to be good, right? Don't forget, you got Anthony Lucas returning. You got Cameron Fountain. You got Braylon Shelby. You got Kobe Pepe. And there's a lot of guys returning from last year. Jade Abasiri. And now you're bringing in more. So if you're going to have that kind of potential, that talent up front, that second level has to start making plays. I have little doubt that USC will try and find someone in the transfer portal for that linebacker room. But again, that's not going to happen till spring camp ends. So that's why I'm really focused in on Elijah Newby, because what he shows the coaching staff is going to help the coaching staff make it, determine how deep do they need to go into that transfer portal. Do they need an immediate come in, I'm going to pay you, make an impact type of guy, or are they going to find somebody they can bring in and develop for a couple of years? I prefer the latter. Elijah's development, Jaden Walker's development, again, that's going to have a lot to do with how many linebackers USC goes and grabs out of the transfer portal. I'm hoping that number is 1, because again, I'd like to see USC's foundation being built through the recruiting process. And Lincoln Riley has done a really good job these last couple of classes, especially in the trenches. This is why I say the honeymoon phase is over. That's not a negative, folks. Some of you hear what you want to hear. When the honeymoon phase is over, that means there's no more excuses. It's time to work with what you got. Let's go. Again, speaking of linebacker recruiting, and I believe I mentioned this on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. 2025 linebacker. He's from the state of Nevada, AJ Tuatelli. Most anticipate he's going to commit to USC. We've seen a lot of crystal balls flipping that way. He was once committed to Washington State. Now, whether he signs on signing day or before, I don't think it matters. He grew up a USC fan. USC staff is making him a huge priority right now. So we'll see how that turns out. I feel confident he'll end up signing with the Trojans, probably on signing day. It's not that far away. And then finally, sticking with the linebackers on the recruiting front, Xavier Griffin. He's saying all the right things. He's still firm with his commitment to USC. With that said, he took a visit to Florida State over the weekend. He's still trying to, grow that relationship with the coaching staff. And he's going to be at Tennessee at their junior day this weekend. This is what Xavier had to say. This is what Xavier said recently. I'm in constant communication with both coaching staffs. So it speaks a lot that regardless of being locked in with USC, they still are building that organic relationships with me and my mom. The biggest thing that keeps me committed to USC are the great coaches, the development, the fan base, and LA. There's not a lot to not like about LA. The guys coaching me on my side of the ball have coached where I want to go, so that is big for me too. Now, he said that before USC hired Rob Ryan to be the linebacker coach. So you've got 6'3", 205 pounds, Xavier Griffin. He is the number 24 overall prospect in the 2026 class, according to On3. And he is also the number 2 linebacker and the number 2 overall recruit in the state of Georgia. He's planning to come back and visit USC in February. He'll get a chance to meet his new position coach when that happens, so we'll see how that turns out. Again, I'm not trying to say he's going to decommit. He's been committed to USC for a while. He's a part of the 2026 class. It's a long time to hold on to a young man who is being pressured, who's being recruited by all the top programs. A lot of times they stay closer to home. We'll see how this turns out. So again, who are you looking forward to watching when spring camp rolls around, when the spring game? We're going to talk about this a lot more between now and then, but I thought I'd get us started. I got you my first couple of players. So you tell me. Hit me up in the comment section. This message is brought to you by Prize Picks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, Prize Picks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, Prize Picks has made it easier than ever to win big while enjoying all the football action. And now it's the playoff time. There's no better way to get in the action with Prize Picks. Here's how it works. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least two players. Two players. Pick more or less. And if your picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. You heard me right. 1,000 times your cash if you pick right on two players or more. Who's your starting quarterback in the playoffs this weekend? Go find that quarterback and say that person, Josh Allen, is going to throw more than 2 touchdowns, or you can pick less than 2 touchdowns. It's that simple. And with the app, with the Prize Pick app, you get your winnings fast, like sometimes in as little as 15 minutes. Are you ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game. Did you watch the national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame? I'm talking specifically to USC fans right now. Everybody who's listening and watching, you can comment on this. In fact, I want that outside perspective. Maybe that's a better way of going about this. USC fans tend to have a little bit of bias. They see things through rose-colored glasses. If I'm too critical, they get mad. Anyways, I stopped watching when the score was 31-7. That was late in the third quarter. Sometime after that, the Notre Dame defense made a really good play. They've been good all year on defense. They punched the ball out. They started to get back in the game, but it wasn't enough. The Buckeyes did enough to win that game, win the national championship, and more importantly, all those USC fans can take that sigh of relief that the evil Green Empire didn't win another national championship. Remember, they haven't won one since 1988. So the curse of Lou Holtz lives on. But what was your takeaway? How far away or how close is USC to playing at that level? To playing at the level of Ohio State and Notre Dame. And I get it. Ohio State was here. Notre Dame was like here. And then everybody else. Ohio State was the cream of the crop this year. And I know Oregon fans don't want to hear that, but that's the case. They let you know. Remember, Oregon, you had Ohio State at home. You eked out that win. When you played Ohio State somewhere else, yeah, how'd that turn out? Exactly. What Ohio State showed is that when you have a front four that can create pressure, you're going to be good. You're going to be really good. Last year, the Trojans struggled in that area, right? But they're addressing that need. Talked about it in the previous segment a little bit. Been talking about all the players USC is bringing in, the Jakeem Stewarts, the Keyshawn Silvers, the John Jarretts, the way they're recruiting. You've got Anthony Lucas, Cameron Fountain, Braylon Shelby, yada, 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 yada. The list goes on. You have last year's recruiting class. You have this year's class. Again, you brought in Thanos, Floyd Boucard, Gus Cordova, Cash Jacobson. They're bringing in, I talked about the SEC Space Eaters, Silver and Jarrett. So they're following the right formula. And they're bringing when you're looking at what Ohio State did up front, that's what USC is trying to do. They're trying to build that kind of room. When you look at the quarterback play in that game, there was nothing special about the passing game. Will Howard he probably played his best game of the season against Notre Dame. But a lot of that had to do with because he was opening up the passing game using his legs to run the ball. And he had two really good running backs behind him as well. Travion Henderson and puts on Junkins. So for as good as Notre Dame's defense was, and they were good. Let's not poo-poo that. The Buckeyes just had too many weapons. I mean, you had that brilliant play calling that Chip Kelly used to set up the passing game. Quarterback keeping the ball and running, rolling the pocket, getting the running backs involved in the passing game, and handing the ball off. Both Notre Dame and Ohio State built their foundation the same way, the right way. They recruited, they developed, and they used NIL to retain. Ohio State Notre Dame to a lesser extent as far as NIL doing retention. But they both recruited, developed, kept their core guys in the program. And if you're watching what Lincoln Riley is doing right now, he's trying to follow that formula as well. This is why I said the honeymoon phase is over. In year 4, I believe there's enough in USC's pantry to contend. Everyone, we know how good Notre Dame's defense was in 2024, and I get it. They didn't have the toughest schedule. You watch them play, you can see it. At the same time, though, USC really didn't have any problem scoring on the Irish when the game was played in LA. That's what I'm saying. USC's close. I mean, USC was good enough to beat Penn State. Nittany Lions made the playoffs. So do those close losses, did they build character for USC? Reminding everybody, USC had leads in the fourth quarter in every game they played last year, except for the game against Notre Dame. And they were driving to tie the game until Notre Dame's defense stepped up and made a couple of really good plays. And even if USC's quarterback play is not up to the typical standards, Let's say I agree with that. Again, USC still had enough to make Notre Dame stress out for that win. It took one great play. So again, how far away are the Trojans when you have a defense that only gives up 24 points per game? That's what they did last year. And I anticipate they're going to get better in 2025. The schedule sets up better compared to last year. Again, when I say the honeymoon phase is over, that's not a negative. That's not a knock. That's not a threat. I need some of you to think outside the box. It's not Lincoln Riley who's making excuses. It's the fan base. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Not going into year 4. Because what's going to be the excuse after year 4 if USC is 8-4? Oh, we need one more year? Stop it. All right, we've got one more segment to go. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist with a busy schedule, it can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, and you can usually do that within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your own home, and you can even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there is a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. And as a listener of Locked on USC, you're going to get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter the promo code SPACE80. You can match up with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, enter the promo code SPACE80, and you're going to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80. Did any of you see this? Yeah, for those of you who hang out on social media, X specifically, it has to be an Ohio State Buckeye psycho fan who made this outrageous comment. This year's Ohio State running back duo may go down as the best college running back duo of all time. And then he listed these stats. Quinshon Judkins, the transfer from Ole Miss, the guy who wanted more money to play in the bowl game for Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss said no, so he ended up going to Ohio State. That's fine. You're going to play the game. It paid off for him. He got paid, and he won a national championship. Last year, this past season, 194 carries, 1,060 yards, 161 receiving yards, 16 total touchdowns, 1 national championship. Woody Marks had similar numbers to that, maybe even better without the national championship. What about Travion Henderson? Really good running back. 144 carries, 1,016 rushing yards, 284 yards out of the backfield catching the ball, 11 touchdowns, 1 national championship. Great season for both of those young men. Congratulations. You got it. National championship. Awesome. The person who made the claim, though, I get it. National championship hangover. Probably still saying some drunk stuff. It happens. I grew up in the message board community. I know drunk posting when I see drunk posting. LenDale White saw it also. And he brought his own version of thunder, and he tagged the Lightning Reggie Bush. He brought his side of the argument. He said this: me and the president, Reggie Bush, Thunder and Lightning, we had 3,000 yards rushing, 44 touchdowns, 700 receiving yards, and Reggie Bush won the Heisman that season. Argue it with your mammy. That was LenDale White. Oh, and he wanted to remind the Ohio State fan that they did it in fewer games. Excuse me. Ohio State just played a 16-game schedule. Just kind of putting that out there for context. Here's my question. LenDale and Reggie were amazing. I mean, they had great offensive lines. Matt Leinart, Fred Davis, wide receivers everywhere. Kind of like Ohio State this year. I mean, if you want one season, I'm not going to throw Reggie and LenDale out of bed for eating crackers, making crumbs, making a mess. If you want one season of, all right, let's compare what these guys did together, you got a strong argument. Thunder and Lightning might be the greatest duo ever. With that said, what if you had to choose? What if I said, all right, you get Reggie and LenDale, or gun to head, Charles White and Marcus Allen, because they shared the backfield together as well. I need to remind my younger viewers, my younger listeners, Charles White won the Heisman Award. Marcus Allen, who also won the Heisman, he was Charles White's fullback. He was his blocking back. Yeah. Charles White won the Heisman in 1979. He was also a member of USC's 1978 national championship team. I believe Charles still holds the USC's career rushing record, 6,245 yards. Back then, that was number 2 in the NCAA history. He also scored 49 touchdowns by himself. The year he won the Heisman, he also led the nation in rushing. He won the Walter Camp Award, the Maxwell Award, the Pop Warner Award. I mean, dude cleaned house. And then Marcus Allen, a couple of years later, he won USC's 4th Heisman Award. He was college football's first 2,000-yard rusher in a season. When Marcus won the Heisman in 1981, pick up these numbers. He set 14 new NCAA records and tied 2 others, including most yards in a season, 2,300. Highest per game average, 212 yards, almost 213. Most 200-yard games in a career, 11. Most 200-yard games in a season, he had 8. Most 200-yard games in a row, 5. Think about that. Marcus Allen, NFL Hall of Famer, had to wait his turn because Charles White was ahead of him. Yeah. They played in the same backfield together. Again, I'm not taking anything away from Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. It's a hard name to say, by the way. But again, if I was making a one-year comparison, Thunder and Lightning every day, twice on Sunday compared to that Buckeye duo. But if we're talking about best running back tandem that played together, yeah. Everyone step aside for the Trojan OGs that paved the way for Reggie and LenDale. That's where I stand on the matter. Do you agree? Do you disagree? There's really no wrong answer here. But when you think back about who USC had in the same backfield, those 2 guys who just won the national championship for Ohio State, really good season. Congratulations. But you're not even part of this conversation. Let me give you 2 more names. Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders. They share the same backfield. Enough said. All right. Enough said for this episode of Locked On USC. I'll be back again tomorrow for another one. We'll talk more about USC football, recruiting, any other news that's coming down the pipe, any coaching things that are going on. So now that you're done watching Locked On USC, you've made it your first listen of the day. Don't forget about Locked On College Football. Get on over there to wearesc.com. A lot of good written content. Scott Schrader did a Q&A. He's got a lot of recruiting information for you. And until that next episode of Locked on USC, everyone, you know what to do.